Manchester City first at 73 points versus Liverpool second at 72 points. Sunday at 11:30 a.m. EST. And if you are listening to this pod, I cannot imagine you care enough to listen to us and don't care enough to watch this game. So I think we're all going to be in the same place at the same time coming up this weekend. Manchester City is plus 110. The draw is plus 270. Liverpool is plus 235. So pluses across the board. If you want to take any sort of spread, Manchester City at minus half a goal stays, of course, at plus 110. And Liverpool to nick points here and make this a real title race is minus 125. So, Brett, I mean, of course, I have my nonsense and my observations, but that's not what the people want to hear for a match of this importance. It deserves the heft that only you can bring to it. So give us a tactical breakdown of this match from your point of view.
I think the biggest thing is, again, it's going to be in the same vein of what we always talk about, right? Like starting 11s. Pep has this thing where he kind of gets ridden pretty hard, and they actually asked him midweek during the Champions League about how he overthinks and tinkers too much in big matches and all that kind of stuff. Which, by the way, if you want to deep dive into that, go read Grace Robertson's newsletter. She did this on Pep, and basically his whole chain of what he gets blasted for as far as tweaking too much. And it's a very objective breakdown of it all. It's awesome. And I think the one thing that I thought about is if you go back, if there's a Pep moment that's going to happen that's going to come out in the starting 11, if you go back to the first match this year, the 2-2 draw, both goals were your hero, João Cancelo's fault. If you go back far enough where the goal starts, you can look at him being too aggressive and diving into tackler's positioning that kind of opened things up. And the first one is the goal that like Pep fears the most. It was the counter. It was Salah kind of spun out, dribbled through, played Mane, and Mane scored. That counter goal is the thing that Pep designs every single system that he goes into a big match trying to avoid. And Cancelo gave up both. And he's obviously been like a mainstay. He's played the most outfield minutes of any City player. If there was some weird, random, fluky Pep thing that was going to happen, it was going to be that Cancelo will somehow not be in like the starting 11 and like Nathan Ake will be playing left back. And a super defensive, like our fullback's not going forward. We're not going to get countered. We will take a 0-0 draw and just move on and have, basically a leg up in the title race. But other than that, the really cool part about these two teams playing each other, and, correct me if you think I'm wrong in this, they don't change. Like Liverpool, like the possession was about even, which is very rare for any team that plays City. Like every other team that plays City, even probably Chelsea to a degree, but every other team that plays City, they basically, you punt possession against City. Like you punt the possession game. Most teams don't really try to aggressively press them unless, you get like the random Southampton team, Hasenhüttl, who's got a manager that typically does that. But their possession was even in the last game. And I think that's kind of what the most fun is Liverpool's going to press. They're not going to be like, balls to the wall pressing, but they're going to go after it a little bit. And then City is going to obviously still try to do what they do. They're going to win the ball back aggressively after they lose it. They're going to try to slow the tempo, control possession. And so this is what's really fun about this matchup is it's not like the Atletico match that City played midweek where Simeone literally played a 5-5 and just was like, I don't want them. I don't want the ball. I don't care if we get a shot. Like we're just going to give up all the territory, all the possession to City. Hopefully we get lucky on a counter, try to nick a point and then go back, to Spain and then win there. This is just two teams that are going to play their style and they have the players to do it and the personnel to do it. And I think that to me is like, what is the most fun about it? And then the one other big thing is that a very key figure is going to be healthy and available for Liverpool, and that's Thiago. And also Trent Alexander-Arnold is back because James Milner started at right back in the October matchup. And so the thing about Thiago and Milner is that if you look at Liverpool's on-off expected goal totals, Thiago is at the very top of all outfield players that have over 1,000 minutes. He has made Liverpool the best version of themselves when he has been on the pitch. Milner, God bless him, great career. I think he's done. It's actually been an underrated thing. We could have a whole podcast probably about James Milner's career, but he's at the very low end of that spectrum on Liverpool with all guys over 1,000 minutes. So that one little swap out of personnel you're going to see a big upgrade, which I think might cancel out the fact that this isn't at Anfield and it's at the Etihad. But I'm so excited for this. It's just awesome. I cannot wait. And I don't think we're going to see anything crazy. I think we're just going to see two really good starting 11s, the two teams trying to impose their own style on the game, and then hopefully a lot of fun.
Yeah. So in my notes, Thiago is written down over and over and over again because I mean, when you have a heavyweight matchup like this, like a lot of times when we're talking about matches, we're talking about the exploitation of the other team's weakness or the other team's worst player or what they don't do well. But Liverpool and Manchester City have world class players basically in every spot on the entire 22 across the entire pitch. And so, like, I'm not sure there is a quote unquote a weakness. I mean, there's comparative strengths and there's comparative, bright spots and down spots, but every single guy who's going to be on that pitch on Sunday is one of the best in the world at his position. I mean, by whatever definition that is. So in that kind of matchup, now you're talking about a moment of individual brilliance that transcends the game and actually kind of decides something like this. And Thiago has been absolutely unbelievable the last couple of months, or I mean, beyond that. Like, he's been unbelievable for a long time. And him versus Kevin De Bruyne in the midfield, while they might not, constantly be clashing, those two guys, their ability to orchestrate and influence from their positions in the middle of this game is actually how I see it being decided in a lot of ways. I absolutely can't freaking believe how good KDB looks right now. I mean, like, Zidane probably played the game with a lot more artistry and he's remembered as such. But like KDB is going to be the midfielder that I remember from this generation 20 years from now. And I think he's at, basically the peak of his powers. Every single time down the pitch, he seems to orchestrate an A+ opportunity again and again and again and again. It's so crazy to watch. So I think that's where a lot of this is going to be decided. Obviously, TAA and Consuelo, like, playing the position as uniquely as anybody else in the world right now and bringing their individual strengths is certainly going to be heard from. But I think if we, really went down the list, we talked that way about every single person out there. They certainly won't have the same space that they had last week against like Watford and Burnley, where the goals they were scoring kind of looked like training exercises. And so I'll get to my prop in a second, which is where I will address, how this game might change from some of their previous tactical outlook. But just giving a pick before I get down the rabbit hole of a prop, it's just a matter of odds. I'm taking the big plus number because I think all three outcomes are equally likely in a lot of ways. Like, Liverpool looks unbelievable. Manchester City, of course, is world class. I don't value the empty head all that much. So if you take, the home pitch advantage that gets weighted into these odds and remove it, and I get the choice of the three options, I'm going to take Liverpool at plus 235.
Yeah, I mean, I went back and forth on this, and I do think that, obviously this match being at the Etihad is going to play a role in some way or another. I mean, especially just given the intensity of the match. Like, I went back and watched the highlights of the October one, before we recorded today. And it was just like those goals, like you could feel it even in watching the replay months ago, the emotion behind that game. And, both these teams know, like, this match is going to go a long way. It's probably the end of Liverpool's title hopes if they lose. And it's probably vaults them ahead of City if they win. And so I do think, like, where this match being played matters, but I also do think that there was a lot of missing pieces for Liverpool. There was Milner at right back. There's Curtis Jones in the midfield. Now you're going to have TAA and Thiago in the midfield coming up, most likely. I mean, unless there's a surprise here. And whether it's like Firmino's at striker or Jota, like, they play differently. But they're still just as effective, but in the different ways. So I think this match, to me, it's hard to pick a team to win because there's no edge. And so the draw, like, just seems like the natural thing. Like, even in the October matchup, they're non-penalty XG. So non-penalty XG is basically kind of a different way to look at a match. It's like how all the passes that were played in the box, things like that, would have added value to their scoring. The non-penalty XG was exactly the same. The expected goal totals, exactly the same. So to me, there just isn't anything that separates these two teams. And if you kind of get the little boost of like Alexander-Arnold coming back in and Thiago making Liverpool incredible because he's been one of the best midfielders in the world the last 8-9 years, this is just dead even, and you're getting plus money for two teams that are dead even. So that's, to me, if you're going to go on the spread, like that's where you park your money.
So you're taking the draw straight up, not Liverpool and the draw. Okay.
Yeah, the draw.
Plus 270. It's a gutsy pick. I mean, with the range of outcomes, getting an exact 0-0, 1-1, 2-2. I think you're probably getting about true odds for that versus, a team nicking out a 1-goal victory or a referee decision or somebody slipping and making a mistake and giving up a cheap goal, kind of deciding that away from the draw. So I think that's a good pick as well, because I do think, these teams are about as even as a match as we're going to see at the top of the Premier League, I don't know, in years. But here's my observation on the prop side. And I don't know if you feel the same way. I mean, I don't think it's purely selection bias, but watching Manchester City, because they're such a great team, they play in a couple of matches like this every year, right? They play against another world-class opponent in a high-stakes game, 6, 7, 8 times a year through the Premier League and through tournaments. And just isolating down to those games, my memory of them, I went back and did some research and watched some highlights, but I certainly didn't rewatch the whole things for all of them, is that City tends to slow things down and play very slow, controlled football at the outset of these matches. I mean, we often say that Klopp is heavy metal football and Pep is more, classical music or jazz. And so like classical music or jazz builds to a crescendo. This isn't Bulls on Parade or Sweet Child of Mine where they're blasting music right off the first note. They start a little bit slower and build and build and build as the game progresses. And so, looking at them versus Atletico in the Champions League this past week, look at them at Chelsea in January, looking at them, their 2 matches against PSG in the Champions League in the pool play, and their first match against Liverpool. Those 6 matches, only in one instance was there a goal scored in the game in the first 30 minutes. And it was one of the matches against PSG. These games are not usually decided on the front foot right out the beginning. They're decided later on in the game after City, kind of grinds it down a little bit and maybe opens up play and pushes pace a little bit more. So there is a bet for this. Give me goal scored up to the 30th minute. No, and it's only minus 105. So I love that bet. You can take it, you can win it, and you can still root for an awesome game of football over the 60 minutes that follow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a great bet. I mean, that's a very creative way to look at, how City approach these matches for sure, as far as like the marketplace. And I mean, yeah, it's like we talked about from the opening. Like Pep's whole thing is he doesn't want to get countered, he doesn't want to go down early, he doesn't want to play a goal behind. So, that's why he, even against, if anybody who actually watched that grindy Atletico match, you could tell, like, even though Atletico was just literally sitting in these 2 5-man blocks, like Pep was not letting guys commit forward. Like Nathan Ake had very conservative positioning. Like John Stones would maybe make a run like forward a little bit. Cancelo obviously was doing his thing where he drifts forward and into the final third, but they were essentially still kind of playing like a back 3 against a team that was clearly parking the bus, setting up shop in a 5-5. And only did they kind of really they kind of pushed down on the pedal until later when De Bruyne got the goal. So I do think that's a great bet. I am just like so all in though on this idea that these two teams are even, and like, it's hard to see this game being a super grindy 0-0 affair. I mean, maybe like this is just me not wanting that. Like, I don't want to spend 90 minutes watching the 2 best teams in the world, like grind out a 0-0 draw because nobody, because Pep doesn't want to lose. But I do think just with the overall talent, it's hard to see this game be a total goal fest. I mean, both teams got lucky with the chances that they created in the first match to have 2 goals each. Everything about that match said that game was going to be right around 1-1. And I think this is going to be the same thing. And you're getting plus 600. So if both these teams are even, and if your main range is probably 0-0 or 1-1, if you're looking at the draw outcomes, you're getting plus 600 for 1-1. That just seems like a natural fit to me. I just don't see this match other than, like you said earlier, there could be the thing where it's 1-1, somebody slips. I mean, the second goal in the first match was Matip basically ran across the 6-yard box when De Bruyne was shooting, deflected into the other end of the net. So, like, yeah, fluky outcomes happen, but, you know, it's also football, man. Like, this is what happens.
Yeah, and Sterling needs to stop running with his arms extended. Somebody's just going to take target practice at his hand in the box and just kick it into the hand and draw a penalty just because he runs in a super weird way sometimes. So this is the game of the year, and I wrote down some other props. I think Brett and I actually see this in a very similar way. I mean, neither of us are looking at a shootout. I'm kind of married to the slow beginning, and I'm gonna bet it pretty heavily in the 5-pint. But here's some other ones I wrote down that are similar to the vein or an opportunity to fade us. 1 to 2 goals as the total goals in the game is plus 140. 2 to 3 goals is plus 105. If you want to completely fade that, anything other than 1 to 3 goals is plus 145. So if you want 0-0 or 2-2 or higher, that's a good way to get plus money. The under 2.5 is plus 120, and both teams to score no is plus 142. Here's a couple more. Sorry, game of the year. It's like the Super Bowl. You got to get some more props.
I'm going to interject the other one that I was kicking around after you're done with
Sure.
But go ahead.
Sure.
I want you to finish. Yeah. You're on
almost done. Almost done. Half with the most goals. The second is plus 106. So if you like it to open up a little bit more in the second half, particularly if one of the teams, probably Liverpool, starts chasing a bit, I actually like that bet quite a bit. Scoreless draw at the half is plus 250. And then let's see here. These are my favorite too. Manchester City, the first goal to happen in the second half is plus 210. And Liverpool, the first goal to happen in the second half is plus 200. So you could take both of those. I mean, if you hit both, obviously it's wonderful. If you hit either one of them, you get really nice return on your portfolio there. And that's just saying, hey, it's going to be a slow first half, but game on in the second.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones that I had, and this is probably, I came pretty close to actually going with this one though, is that we talk all the time about who is in the starting 11 and where those players are in the starting 11. And Bernardo Silva in a match like this is probably going to play as a false 9. Normally he gets jammed as part of the midfield 3, or sometimes he's out on a wing. But in a match like this, where Pep wants a guy that's going to press, that's going to help him control possession, that's going to be positionally sound when they lose the ball. He had Grealish as kind of the false 9 in the first matchup here. But Bernardo Silva's plus 110 for a shot on target. So if he's playing deeper in the midfield, you don't have as big of an edge on that bet, but he's going to probably play as part of the front 3. Now, obviously you can wait till the starting 11 comes out and see where he's at, and then, kind of project the lineup a little bit. But if he's playing as a 9, like, he's going to be in and around the box. Like, he's going to be one of the guys there. It's not like this game is only going to have like 4 or 5 shots. It's probably going to be 9, 10, 11 shots per team here. So I kind of like Silva is getting one of those shots at plus 110, like getting plus money for the guy basically playing striker for City. So that was one that I thought about really hard. But the only drawback to that one to me is that Silva is very good at link play. And so he's also like very unselfish. Like Mahrez, if Mahrez was playing the 9, I'd be like, yeah, if you're getting plus money for Mahrez,
you're not getting plus money on Mahrez. Yeah. No chance.
He is going to be gunning that shit from midfield. But Silva's a little bit different as a striker, but I still think it's a good thing because he will just be the guy that, just by the de facto nature of, if Pep plays him as a 9, he will be the guy asked to get into the box when they do their shit of playing somebody through and looking to cut it back. Silva will be the guy that's there looking to get those shots off. So I kind of like that you were getting plus money for him. I almost went with it, but I'm just so hell-bent on this draw. I couldn't get away from it.
No, I love that one as well. All right, well, and we spent a good 18, 20 minutes on that one, but please, as I said, if you're within the range of my voice right now and you love the beautiful game, then this is the one we've been waiting for on Sunday. We hoped all year for a real title race. It looked like Manchester City was going to run away with it. Liverpool kind of caught fire, pulled them back, and our reward as football fans is this game coming up in a couple of days. So we hope that you enjoy it just as much as we will. But I guess we're going to talk about the other 4 games as well, which we
hold
will
on.
do.
I just want to go back. Also, if you are one of the people that Toby mentioned that you listen to us, but you're not going to watch this game, please reach out to me. I just want to know you on a personal level because you fascinate me. So if that is the box that you fit in, that you listen to this soccer podcast, but you're like, I'm not going to watch that fucking Liverpool City match. I want to know you. Come be my friend.